Welcome to my MANIAC Mode tutorial for Razion EX. And for this tutorial, what I did was I went through all my failed attempt footage and I extracted all my no-death boss runs that I got, during my failed attempts and shit like that, and during my legit attempt where I did beat the game. But I've also posted my legit attempt up completely raw and unedited, so you can see all the fuck-ups. I was down to the last life. But this is going to show my best boss runs of some of the mini bosses and main bosses, just to show how it should look if you play it properly. So it's more of a demonstration. I also, after beating the game on Maniac, I had a really shitty final boss run where I died a lot because I didn't really practice it or know how to play it too well. So I spent an additional 13 minutes in the boss practice mode that the game offers, and I was able to beat that boss with no damage in about 13 minutes of doing that. So I added that footage to the end. So it should be a pretty clean run as far as the bosses go. There's still a lot of deaths on the actual stages. It does get really, really dense, as you can see. So yeah, this is actually a game that was released late for the Neo Geo. Maybe 2010 or 2014, something like that. I don't believe I actually had the actual ROM on my emulation-focused PC, but I wasn't able to check because my emulation PC is having a Windows 10 installed on it now. So I didn't have it on me. But I picked this up for $20 and it's a great port for the Switch. It has some extra features. And one of them is the ability to earn more continues. So as you play more, you can eventually earn up to 10 continues. The game does have limited continues, but you can get up to 10 continues and you will start where you died. Each continue has about 2 or 3 lives. So just keep that in mind. So you do need to learn the game and get fairly decent at it, but 10 continues is a pretty good amount for a game that's only about 22 minutes long. You have a really small hitbox on your ship, so there is some forgiveness with that, but you still really have to dodge really well or your lives will drain fast, so it definitely gets hard. The main difference on Maniac mode that I noticed was that the bullets seem faster and there's some extra explosions and things like that to add even more projectiles on screen. So I think those are the main changes. But normal was already pretty dense and pretty fast, so I mean, if you beat normal, I don't think Maniac's going to be a huge step up from normal. It is harder, but I do recommend starting with normal first, or even novice, to get a feel for the game. I started on normal, and normal took me about 3 hours and 6 minutes to beat, and then it took me maybe an additional hour and a half to beat Maniac. Now, some of that time spent on normal was because of unlocking more continues as I played more. It only starts you off with maybe 2 or 3 continues. So it does take a while to unlock those extra continues. So there's not a hell of a lot to say for a lot of the bosses. There's not really any great exploits or anything that I'm aware of. But there are some techniques and some positionings. Positioning is huge in these games. And there are some positions that work better than others. And just movement patterns in general. So for this, you just want to try to, obviously stay in the gaps while keeping an eye on that orange stream of bullets. You want to try to stay, either up or down of it, obviously, while dodging the pink cones that are going up and down and the missiles. There's also explosions added into the mix. So there's a lot to manage there. And it's hard as hell to try to explain how to manage all that shit. It's more of a thing where you practice and you play the game and you just learn it through practice. It's a hard kind of game to describe. It's a real dense game. I didn't find it too difficult only because, you can start where you died up to a point until you exhaust all your lives. So once you get decent at it, you don't have to play perfectly. Now, if you're doing a 1cc, it'll definitely become more challenging. But I had some long stretches where I didn't die for a while, so it's definitely learnable. I would need to spend a lot more time, though, to get down to that level. So, the way the game works is, I'm going to try to explain a little bit about how the game works. There's something I didn't know, and I didn't use it in most of the tutorials, so I'm going to explain that, and it should give you an edge, because there was no instruction manual with this, obviously. So, the way it seems to work is, you have a power shot. It's a power meter. At the very bottom of the screen is a power meter. When that fully charges up, you can press another button to unleash a power shot. Now, when you shoot that power shot, it's pretty much like blowing your load. When you do that, it demotes your regular shot down to a single stream of bullets, and it becomes very weak. Now, I didn't figure this out until I already beat Maniac Mode. I was already done with the game pretty much. I figured it out during my final boss practice session. I didn't realize how powerful that actually was. So, the best way it seems to play is to not use your power shot unless you really need to clear out bullets or clear out enemies. It doesn't matter so much in the regular levels. You want to use your power shot during the regular levels to, I'm saying like not during boss fights. You want to use your power shot to clear out bullets and enemies and shit like that just to survive. So don't worry about using it there. But when you're fighting some of the bosses, keep in mind that you do way more damage if you have that triple stream of bullets, which means not using your power shot so you can maintain that fully powered up triple stream of bullets. There are no power-ups as far as to power up your weapons. You have one weapon, and when it's fully powered up, it has a triple shot, as you see here. But as soon as you shoot your power shot, it gets demoted down to one stream of bullets, and it's very weak. So then you got to wait for it to charge again. So just keep that in mind. You see here, I use my power shot quite frequently because I assumed that it was going to do more damage to the boss. But what I didn't realize was that single stream of bullets is so much weaker. And had I not used my power shot, I could have done much more damage to these bosses, I believe, by just using the fully powered up shot. So just keep that in mind. There is also a button you can hold down to slow your ship down, because the game is a bit bullet hellish, but not quite. It's still more similar to something like R-Type than it is to a bullet hell, or a bullet curtain type of game, but it is very dense, and there's a small hitbox. It's kind of like a hybrid of something like R-Type and a bullet hell. It's kind of a mix. It's an awesome game, though. Awesome fucking game. I'm going to review it as well, so I'll go into more detail about that. But if you hold the button down, you'll slow your ship down. And I never used that, not once in the entire game. So if you want to use that, you can. But I found I was able to maneuver fine without ever using it. I can pretty much dodge. I don't see how it would help me dodge any better, but maybe it would. If I was trying to go for a 1cc, I might experiment with that more or something. But I was also experimenting with a joystick that I modded, and I was using it on the Switch. So, I feel like the joystick gave me a good control. And I'm experimenting with the idea that maybe I can get better control over these shooters with a joystick than a standard gamepad. So I'm just I'm still kind of experimenting to see if it may work better for these type of games. So I've modded a few joysticks. So yeah, for this guy, you want to continually put fire on him, obviously, but you can see how you dodge his patterns pretty much. You have to be ready for the vertical shots that appear at some point. You want to be spaced properly, or at least ready to make a micro adjustment to get in between those gaps. So like I said, it's hard as hell to try to explain this. But here I like to stay in the upper right corner of this boss and shoot at the right gun. And I just try to keep in those gaps and dodge everything. And I use my power shot if I'm about to get hit. And that usually deals pretty well with that guy, with that mini-boss. Now, I did spend a lot of time just explaining the basics of the game. But I think if you watch some of my, the way I dodge some of the patterns, you'll get the idea of it. But if you keep in mind that don't use the power shot as much as I did on all the other bosses. Aside from the final boss, I did it right on the final boss. But I would say don't follow what I did with the mini bosses as far as using the power shot heavily. I would say only use it if you're about to get hit, because you want to keep your triple stream fire on the your fully powered up shot, draining the boss's health, because it really does so much more damage. And like I said, I didn't know that because there was no manual with the game. I didn't experiment with how the game worked really. I just played it. And, tried to survive it. So, even after beating Maniac Mode, I still didn't know that until I got the final boss footage for the tutorial in the boss practice mode. Now, that's a great feature with this game, is that it has a boss practice mode, and you can also practice the levels after you've unlocked all that shit. You unlock it by beating the levels in the regular game. So, there is a practice mode, which is very helpful. I didn't use it, but I'm sure it would be good. I only used it after I already completed Maniac. And then I used it to get the footage of the final boss, as I said. But now there's another thing that goes on in this game, and that is there's these squares that you collect, as you see. Now, the squares will power your power shot back up. So if your power shot's a little low, grab the squares and you'll get it back. Now for this, you want to kind of lure these bullets to your position and then circle back around. See, I'm in this little area here. Now I move around in like a circular motion, if you notice. I kind of wait for the green bullets to come out, then I circle back around. Now there's one part where I got lucky. See that? That's usually lucky when I dodge that because I don't know how to do that consistently. But the idea is to circle back around, and if you need to use the power shot, use it to clear out stuff. But it's better not to use the power shot and get your fully powered up, damage on the boss. So keep that in mind. But yeah, collecting the squares will power your shot back up. So it's very useful to get those. Now, if you want more points, you can fire your power shot at the green cubes or at the yellow cubes, I believe, and it'll turn them green. And when they turn green, they're worth more points when you collect them. I believe that's how you get more points. But keep in mind, I wasn't really playing for score. I was interested in the scoring mechanic because I thought maybe I could earn a few extra 1-ups or something like that. But it seemed negligible. I mean, I rarely ever got 1-ups off of points. I think if you survive long enough, though, you'll get enough points to earn a 1-up. I did it a few times, but you're not given a lot of 1-ups from points as far as I can tell. So this stage gets really dense, as you can see. The main idea is to try to use your power shots to clear out those, they look like little hot peppers or something, they're little orange circular things that come at you. You want to try to clear them out with your power shots and clear out the enemies that are spawning them, the squids that are spawning them. But it can get, you really have to dominate the screen in this game, otherwise you get taken over. If you're not taking shit out fast enough, the screen will just get so dense that you're pretty much fucked. And your only way to survive is to maybe try to use a power shot to buy you a second or two to move. You also use your power shot just to move into a new area sometimes with how dense things get. So for this, the idea is to move forward and back in this area where I'm at here. This is how I do it anyway. And once I get pushed back, really far, I'll use my power shot usually, but I fucked it up here. This wasn't a clean run. I probably died at least once here. But I didn't bother to go through and get a no-death run on every boss for the tutorial because, I didn't think it was really necessary because you get the general idea. But for the final boss, I thought I might as well do all the main bosses with no damage just to have a good, a good clean video to show everything. But yeah, you want to lure out these little jellyfish thing kind of down to where you're at and then move back up around and take shots at the bottom of that mini boss, that huge jellyfish or whatever it was. You want to shoot the bottom of the stem whenever you get a chance, and you want to use your power shot to clear it out. But like I said, if you can, don't use the power shot so you can get more damage with your regular shot. So this is a narrow area, but it's pretty easy because all the enemies are channeled into a very narrow area. But of course, if you don't have your power shot and you get caught without it, you have very little room to maneuver and move in that narrow passage. So it is dangerous. So I got killed there. And this area gets very, very dense. But this is near where the boss is coming out. It's not too bad. So with this guy, you want to try to lure the green shots out to your last position. They're going to all home in on your last position. And then you want to kind of just move out of the way. And you can get into a rhythm with them where you know when they're going to fire off. And you kind of just move a little bit. This boss is actually similar to the final boss. But the final boss is like a steroided up version of this. Much more aggressive patterns. And quite a bit harder. So you just want to maneuver and stay in the gaps, obviously. Really hard to explain this kind of shit. I'm pretty bad at explaining this when it gets fucking this detailed, But practice will make it come together. It does look, really hard initially, and it can seem pretty tough. But, with practice, it can start to come together. You'll start to, find where the spaces are and be able to move with it. So this stage is, again, even more dense than the previous stage. It gets very aggressive. I try to take out those bulbs that pop up every once in a while. I try to take them out immediately. Because they'll shoot a bunch of fast-moving bullets, so I try to take them out immediately. Of course, while you're doing all this, you want to be clearing out those spinners that spin around and shoot out all those triangle projectiles. You want to try to kill those, because if you don't dominate the screen and take them out immediately, they really overtake the screen with bullets, and you can get completely overrun by bullets to where it's, it may not even be possible to dodge at times if you let those things stay alive. But you can see how dense it gets. So with these ships that shoot the double beams and all that shit, sometimes you're going to have two of them at once, these large mini-boss type of ships. You want to just stay in the middle, because that's where the space is, right? Between you notice the ship has two guns, the large ship, and if you stay in the middle, that's the safe spot. So you want to kind of ride with it and stay in the middle, but while you're doing that, you got so much other shit firing on you. It's like, how the fuck do you even explain what to do, right? It's more of getting into a zone and just focusing and learning how to learning the best places to be. You know what I mean? You got to be a few steps ahead with these kind of games as far as your positioning. You want to try to clean out these spinners whenever you can, because you can see they really flood the screen. So yeah, this guy is really not too hard. You just want to stay in the gap and move down with it. You can see it's kind of a staircase pattern, as you kind of just move down in a staircase type of pattern and just move downward with it, and then back up again, obviously. And you just keep with it. It's really not too hard. But you can see it gets real fucking dense. This stage is probably the densest, most packed stage as far as bullets. And I've played it much better before, so this was a pretty shitty run for me of this stage. But I had done better on some of the earlier areas, so I was able to barely break through. This was from my actual successful run. Now, I didn't go back and extract all my best stage footage, because, trying to get all my stage footage would be a lot of editing and going through all my old footage to try to get all the best stage runs. And, I didn't want to refine it to that degree, but it's somewhat of a refined tutorial. Like I said, I did refine the bosses, at least. The main bosses. So yeah, this boss really not too bad. It's similar. You want to lure out these, those initial patterns to your last position, and you just want to stay in the gaps, obviously. Which you really just got to learn how to do this just by playing it. Some of these patterns, they're not as hard as they look, but you do have to have a certain amount of skill to be able to approach, dodging in a game like this, definitely. So for this, it's just slight left to right movement while staying in the middle is really all this part is. But when it shoots out that stream of circular bullets, you want to move up a little bit to get into space. If not, use your power shot and try to clear them out if you need to. I didn't need to, luckily. So I was able to not use it. But I did end up using it in this part with all these rocks appearing and shit. It gets pretty wild. So I was just trying to survive at this point. And you see, I died at the same time I killed the boss. But I figured it was good enough, so I left that in. I mean, the boss was pretty much dead as I died. So not technically a no-death run, but clean enough to demonstrate. So for this part, you're going to be dodging a lot of dense shit, but the main thing is when those spinners come out, that the boss spawns, you want to take out those spinner enemies. Now, you can also stay at the very bottom of the screen after you kill the spinners, and the boss won't be able to reach you, so you can just time them out that way if you want. You don't have to fight them like I did. You do want to at least remove the spinners, though, from that mini-boss, because the spinners will cause a huge problem. So for this boss, same thing as the first time you fought him, but now, as you can see, it's much denser, much more aggressive patterns. So it's a lot harder. But you want to try to stay in the gaps, and I like staying up in the upper right until he dies or goes away. If you don't damage him enough, then he will leave eventually, so either way. But yeah, definitely not an easy thing to try to explain. But it should come together with practice. Initially, some of the patterns, can seem pretty damn hard, but it does come together once you start to understand, how to move. So yeah, I mean, that guy's not around for very long, that robot, but, a lot of enemies appear, so that part is tough. So now this part's really not too hard when you have two of these ships on screen at the same time. It looks like it would be hard, but you just stay in the middle and just try to manage everything. Try to stay, in between the streams of fire while dodging the other shit. Now, for this Terminator type of enemy, it does add these orange circles everywhere. That's the only really thing that's added to this encounter. And of course, these spinning shots. So there's a few things added. But, you want to try to just stay in the gaps the best you can, obviously. It's better to try to, move minimally, not have, huge movements or anything. You want to try to make subtle movements to try to dodge everything. That's in general with these type of games. And, use your power shot if you really need to survive. If you're about to get hit, then use it. It's better than dying. So this is the final boss, and this is my no-death run of the final boss. So for this, you just make subtle movements. You want to you want to lure out those shots to your last position and then move. Now, if you stay in this upper half of the screen here, there is kind of a path through all this popcorn. If you notice, I didn't have to make tons of movements to dodge all that. So look at what I did there and try to stay in that upper half and move in a similar way. Now, I did use my power shot there because I got cornered in on those shots, which I would have liked to save it. But I do end up getting my fully powered shot up soon enough. Now here you just make small movements through these little hot peppers, and you can kind of just move through them. But you do have to watch out for extra bullet streams, so just be aware of all that. This is definitely going to take some isolated practice to get down. Now I got lucky there. See, I would have died. That was out of my control, but the game didn't kill me. I wasn't. That wasn't due to me. Spacing myself right. So there was one part in this fight where I could have easily died. It was like a 50-50, and I just got lucky. But for the most part, I had to learn that, and you do have to learn those patterns. You want to stay in the gaps, obviously, and try to make minimal movements. And the best thing you can do, really, is just use the boss practice mode. Since this is not on an emulator, at least yet, you don't have save states, but the next best thing is level training and boss training. So, definitely utilize that and use that to practice specific parts. If you're losing a lot of lives on a certain part, you may want to practice a stage or boss. I didn't use any of that. I just kept replaying the game over and over again until I earned more continues. And by the time I had 10 continues, I had a pretty good feel for the game. And, once I beat it on normal, it only took me about another hour and a half to beat Maniac. If you have any questions, let me know, and thanks for watching.